second year was just the ghetto. The ghetto!
Ra-ta-ta-ta. Ra-ta-ta-ta.
But second year is that year, you know, just that year. It really was the gutter. When I say the gutter, I mean... Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna go straight into my second year experience. We ain't gonna waste no time, so grab a cup of tea because it's gonna be juicy, okay? Well, I was just over it. Like, I think second year is one of those years that just academically, if you haven't watched my being at Cambridge video where I talk about my second term, that kind of goes through what I was dealing with academically, which was a lot. Like, that jump from first year to second year did not come to play with my edges. Also academically, I think you already have the pressure of doing your degree, but then you have the pressure of the other things, which means it's not just about getting through the degree and getting it over and done with. It's literally about surviving. And yes, you have to survive on the academic side, but on the social and personal side, like, this year really put me through it. When I did speak to someone that's graduated now, and I was like, so will you miss it? And then they were like, no, not the supervisions, not the supervisors, not the people, no. Because I was in first year, I was thinking, wow, that's a bit hard. How can you say you're not gonna miss this place? And the more time goes on, the more I understand. I feel like with second year, I definitely did become more disillusioned. And I feel that although I had been in this environment, I was just in a position where I was just more cognizant of my blackness. So if you've watched my previous video, you'll know about my academic mess. But anyway, it led me into doing a book by Henry Morton Stanley, who was like this big colonizer. One of the things he wrote about was the university's mission. And this was a mission by Oxbridge and some other unis. But when I read that, like, I was like, oh, I don't know what this is. Let me research that further. I came across how, like, they had this really big meeting in the Senate House where we all graduate. David Livingstone imploring these universities to go and carry out that mission. I was really fed up of being in an institution that fails to hold itself accountable for its past in relation to slavery or colonialism, and we of course know now that Cambridge are doing an inquiry into its ties and links with slavery. There are some controversies in and of themselves surrounding that. I would hope that in the future that can encompass colonialism. At that time, that wasn't happening, and so I just felt like I was just in this institution historically has disenfranchised people like me, but hasn't atoned for it. These things have always been the backdrop of this institution. It's not kind of nice so when you have to just stumble across that history, and then it's just like another reminder of, oh yeah, this is the institution I'm in. It's not all new to me, but I do definitely feel like you get fatigued, if that makes sense, or like just tired of having to explain your existence or justify your existence, or there's just something about your existence that you know will just never wholly be attached to a place like that. Hearing other people's experiences at their own colleges, or from supervisors using that slur and other things. Like, there are so many things. If you're a student here, you'll just know. It's kind of that, like, oh, it's another day at Cambridge. That is what is the problem about all of it. Like, in first year, I was basically doing up Cambridge mascot. I was literally the merchant of, it's not that bad. It's not like I hadn't noticed these things. Tried not to think about them. And this year really forced me to think about how the experiences at this institution are really indicative of the kind of things that people of colour have to overcome in this country in general. So I felt like in that sense, Cambridge became much more of a microcosm of like the real world, which uni is supposed to be anyway. So day to day, I just really became sick of the Cambridge bubble. So stuff like being at home or even back in Hounslow, it was like I could finally exhale. I felt like at Cambridge, I was constantly holding my breath. I think loads of people of colour that do exist in majority white settings will resonate with that. Having to behave accordingly or assimilate, you do really have to be always aware of who you are, where you're from, and what you represent. Just being tired of having to be so aware of my blackness in this setting and other aspects of my identity, such as my class. And it was really like, why do I have to survive? I was like, why can't I have the experience of my cis white male middle class counterparts? Like that, like not even envy, but like frustration about like, why does it have to be difficult? Like, yeah, why does this have to be difficult for reasons that are apart from the academic rigor? But then again, it really made me accept that that is the real world. I remember a particular time when I was sitting with a group of people and they were talking about, I don't know, they were bantering about something, and I just literally sat there, and it was like I was so removed from the conversation, but I was in there. And I just remember thinking that I will never have the same experience of this place as you. Like, I'll always have a completely different experience of this place than you. That is normal. Like, in any institution, it's normal for people to have different experiences. But I think that for me, that I felt, because there is this Cambridge experience, I felt like then I hadn't experienced Cambridge the right way, because I hadn't experienced that experience. I didn't experience it. And of course there are a multitude of experiences you can have in one setting, but for me it was more that although I'd accessed this institution through Access, and thank you for my 3 summer schools, and thank you for Access schemes for getting me here, I just felt like I will never have access into this place. I hope it makes sense, but this is like very real. It is very real to feel this, to experience this. Let me like try summarize that. I feel like a lot of emotions just built up in me. I just became very depressed with the reality of Cambridge, and alongside obviously what I was talking about academically, I was just going through it. And personally, like, I just remember the time from January to like the end of exams just being really dark and being in a dark place. So I feel like I was just becoming disillusioned and just having like this existential crisis. I felt like really guilty in terms of, oh my gosh, how can I have this YouTube channel where I'm encouraging people to apply when this place is like, there are so many versions of trash. I think minorities are often gaslit with be grateful, but me being grateful to be at Cambridge, like I'm so grateful, like you don't understand how grateful I am to be here, and how actually much like I love it, like I high-key love it, but all of that doesn't negate those kind of bad experiences or kind of the very real aspects that some people can go through or feel or experience. Ultimately, how I got out of this like is realizing that, wait a minute, I am literally in the midst of change. There are people before me and people before them that were initiating this change and initiating what I'm existing in. Even though what I'm existing in now isn't perfect, it's come a long way from what it used to be. And then hopefully for future generations that come after me, it will be so much different from how it is now. That acceptance of that I'm in the midst of change, trying to do as much as I can to make it a different Cambridge for people to come. And I remember I was so down at this time, but I remember this one comment from YouTube, and I can't remember the full thing, but it said something like, you and Ibs show that Cambridge is changing. If you are feeling like this, you need to know that every essay you write, every time you speak out or speak up, change is happening, and change is a process. You're not just gonna wake up and like things are different. When I saw the undergraduates at Homerton this year, I feel like that was a real testament to change and the work that people are putting in to make this institution more accessible, and the work that students and particular academics are putting in to support one another and make sure that other people feel welcome here, feel that they do have a place here, feel that they do have an experience of Cambridge that, although may not be the typical experience or the one that the majority are having, it is a valuable and good experience. And I'm telling you, like, I would never trade this for anything, because I've had like an amazing time and have met incredible people. It is changing and it's not all doom and gloom. I talked briefly about friendships in the other video. Definitely is a time where friendships are tested. I would honestly say, in hindsight, take your time. Just like you'd date someone, I actually think you have to date your friends. You have to watch out for red flags and all of the above. I feel like you're allowed to have standards in friendship, and I definitely feel second year taught me that. And I feel that you do transition from a place where a lot of the friendships you have in secondary school are for convenience to a place in uni where you can choose your friends. And I feel like in first year, the apprehension of first year means that you are quick to form close bonds. But I think that it's okay to review that and move on or move in different directions. And I also feel that literally friendships are as complex as any other relationships. Second year is also a time where people kind of get apprehensive about work experience if they haven't done it in the summer between first year and second year, and I can do a whole different video about that. I would say that work experience was valuable in that I was able to see whether or not I liked that specific industry. So I did a marketing summer thing with the DMA. I think it was just really nice to be able to see how I work. Do I like working with people? Do I like that corporate vibe? I would say that they're not the be all and end all. I also gained a lot of weight. I know I talk about exam fat a lot, but I gained a lot of weight. And I was drinking Coke like a madman. I was drinking Red Bull like a madman. I needed all the caffeine in the world because as well, I was really physically, it took a toll on me. So I just needed all the caffeine in the world, and my eating was disgusting. But anyone going through it, I know in uni your body changes, your body goes through it. So be kind to yourself and be patient with yourself if your body is going through it. I think that the overarching theme in all of this is resentment. I feel like I started really resenting uni. Resent was just such an overarching emotion. I know so many students may go through those feelings, whether it's in terms of their degree, where they are, who they're with, all of these things. So I do feel like there are ways of managing resentment. One of the ways we can curb resentment is by managing our expectations. Also, in the case that you start to resent like people that you're with or associated with or whatever, I think that you need to pull all the way back. Then you need to check your ego. It's about perspective, and talking about perspective, I think it's important to recognize the other side of how perspective can breed resent, because I used to say, like, if my life was at Warwick, it wouldn't be like this. But although that may be true, you can't presuppose what your experience at another uni would have been like. Curb that resentment. You need to just accept, and I think I'm gonna echo what Ib said. I can't remember when he said this, but it was essentially, look, you made it here, enjoy it. It's actually okay to immerse yourself in the culture momentarily. Like, it's actually okay. It was important for me to go through this year and for me to experience that emotion on that scale and have to work through it, because that feeling can show up in marriage, in work. Like, resent is not an uncommon feeling, so it is important to be able to recognize it and manage it. So I felt like there was a purpose to everything that I went to and that I discovered, and there's so much more I could talk about. Actually, that was second year for me. Thank you for watching. If you've sat through this and listened to me ramble, and I'll see you later. Bye.